Thank you, Dr. Fresha and Brother Augustine. And our next speaker, now I'm going to present our next speaker. Our next speaker is Professor Omobowale. He received his PhD in literature and medicine in 2021. I mean, pardon me, in 2001 from the University of Ibadan. Later, he attended Cage Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio, just in the United States, where he obtained an MA in bioethics. And since then, since 2005, he had supervised many students, and over 50 of them are now they've received their degrees in English at the University of Ibadan, and has inspired many PhD students to look at the intersection of literature and medicine. And the professor, his work also has done. He's done a lot of work that looks at literature and medicine, and his PhD has, pardon me, currently professor is supervising 7 PhD students in the area of literature and medicine in Nigeria. He believes that literature is an instrument for positive social change. He's a recipient of several awards. Some of his works include The Eagle Must Fly and other stories, and then The Melting Pot and Seasons of Rage. Lastly, one of his popular work is An Eye for an Eye, which was published in 2001. Thank you so much, Professor, for being here. We look forward to learning from you. Professor, are you there?
Yes, sorry. So thank you very much, everybody. I would like to thank Augustine for inviting me to be part of this program this evening. And I'm also happy that I'm meeting and I'm on the same platform with Professor Femi Oyebode. I got in touch with him several years ago when I was working on the creative works of Nigerian medical doctors. And I've done a lot of work on his collections of poetry. So it's nice listening to him this evening. So I'm going to be speaking on what I've done in Nigeria with regards to literature and medicine, which is an aspect of the medical humanities. And usually I trace the beginning of my encounter with medical humanities to 1995. That was when I got a job at the University of Ibadan as a lecturer. And the then head of the department, Professor Niyo Shudari, a very well-known and reputable African poet, told me that there was a particular course that he wanted me to teach. It was a 300 level course. And that was English 365, special topics in literature. And one of the things that I learned at that particular time in 1995 was that I could teach any topic that I wanted. And it was then I decided that I was going to work on Nigerian medical doctors. And I went around searching for people whose works I could work on. And I selected Professor Femi Oyebode's works of art, Dr. Wale Okeduro, Dr. Tony Mario, Tulu Ajayi, James Enenshaw, and Okoro, and Femi Olubili. So I taught the works of these writers to my students in 1995. And it then occurred to me that I could also work on these medical doctors for my PhD, for the PhD program. And I discussed with my supervisor. At the point I had issues with that, there were problems with regards to that because I remember at that time my supervisor said, "Where are you going to get the supporting materials for this kind of program? If you want to work on this kind of study, rather, if you want to work on medical doctors, you need things to back up whatever points you're going to be making on them." But I had made up my mind I was going to work on them, and we agreed that we should start working. And I remember that at the point, one of my friends, Professor Isidore Diala, came to me one day and said, "Look, there's a book I've found which might be useful." And that book was, the title of the book was Is the Body and the Text, Essays in Literature and Medicine. I went around to look for the book at the university library. I got it eventually. And I selected one of the contributors to the book, who later I got to know was the very first professor of literature and medicine in the world. She was then a professor of medicine at the University of Texas. I got in touch with her, and she sent me materials on literature and medicine. And getting those materials made me have a focus. And I knew what to do with regards to Nigerian medical doctors that I wanted to work on. And I completed my thesis in 1999. I defended in 2001. And since then, I've been working on these medical doctors and on literature and medicine. And because of what I did in the Department of English of the University of Ibadan, the department then went ahead to start a course entitled Literature and Medicine in the same department. I was the first lecturer. Since 2005, there have been several other lecturers, but I was the very first person that gave the course a structure. And since 2005, I've supervised several people in the area of who have worked on literature and medicine for the MA projects. And of course, other people also came around to say that they were interested in working in that area, literature and medicine, for their PhD. So at the last count, I have supervised about 4 people who have successfully defended their PhD in the area of literature and medicine at the University of Ibadan. And currently, 1 other person is defending next week, and 2 will be defending in February. And they would have PhDs in the area of literature and medicine. Now, what I've been doing over the years is to use literature, basically, just like it's done elsewhere, to teach the ethics of medicine, to show that there's a correlation, points of convergence between literature and medicine, between the humanities and medicine. That you can use the humanities to humanize medicine. So it's just the same idea that you have in the US, in Canada, in England, that we are also projecting here in Ibadan. And of course, many people have also bought into the idea. And I'm happy that one way or the other, the gospel of literature and medicine is spreading, especially here in Nigeria, to other schools. I've also written several articles in this area, collaborated with my students. All these things are reflected in the slides that Augustine is sharing. I remember that when I finished the PhD program in 2001, my internal examiner was the Professor Malomo, who is still at the College of Medicine of the University of Ibadan. So he told me that, look, why don't you come around to interact with my medical students? And so since 2002, thereabout, I started an informal collaboration with Professor Malomo, who is a neurosurgeon, and I would go to the College of Medicine and interact with medical students and encourage them to write about their experiences at the hospital, and then we'll also use whatever the right to talk about the ethics of medicine. Of course, my research and my study and my work in the area of literature and medicine has not been limited to medical doctors alone. I've had the opportunity of also interacting with other people who are not medical doctors, but who have written about illness, about disease, about disability, and death. But most of my work are centered around medical doctors. One of whom, of course, apart from Professor Ebody, I've worked in Latin Deku. Latin Deku was also was a neurosurgeon, And he, was an American trained neurosurgeon who got a job at the University of Ibadan. And he wrote two massive volumes of poetry. And one of the longest poems in one of his collections, Twilight Out of the Night, was the Ballad of the UCH. And I've done a study on that, where it talks about what happens at the University College Hospital. And this was a poem that was written in 1964. And some of the things I talked about at that time are still relevant till today. So, like I said, when I interact with medical students or I interact with my students at the Department of English in UI, I encourage them to write about their experiences in hospital settings. And over the years, I've had compilations of very well-written stories by my students, by medical students, and also students in the Department of English of the University of Ibadan. And some of these poems have been collected together, and I'm going to, they'll soon be published. In fact, the plan is to publish some of them this year. So the collaboration with Professor Malomo has subsisted even till now. But one other thing that happened in the course of my research into literature and medicine was that I also got an opportunity to travel to the US for a master's in bioethics. And I studied at Case Western Reserve University, and I got, that was between 2002 and 2003. And I had this degree in bioethics. And bioethics is also considered as a part of the medical humanities. So when I came out to Nigeria in 2003, and of course, the collaboration with Professor Malomo continued. And he was the one that introduced me to Professor Adibamo, who was then working at the College of Medicine, and who was interested rather in bringing people who had backgrounds in bioethics together, to teach the ethics of medicine to medical students. I believe he had got a grant at that time. So we started what then became known as the West African Bioethics Network. And we would meet, we would discuss different topics related to medical humanities and medical ethics. And eventually we came up with a proposal, which we sent to the University of Ibadan for the establishment of a program domiciled in the Department of Surgery that would lead to the award of master's degree in bioethics to students, to people who are interested in bioethics at the University of Ibadan. So as we're doing that, we also started pushing for the establishment of a department of bioethics and medical humanities at the University of Ibadan. Because the idea was that if we started a bioethics department at the University of Ibadan, it will spread to other parts of Nigeria, and then maybe from other parts of Nigeria to other parts of the country. Right now, at least from my own experience and everything, I know that the medical humanities is very well grounded in South Africa. I have collaborations with colleagues in South Africa, so I'm aware of that. But I also know that if we're able to do something in Nigeria with regards to medical humanities, Nigeria being Africa's most populated country, it might have an impact on the whole of the continent about how to humanize medical practice, how to use elements of humanities to humanize medical practice. So about 3 or 4 years ago, the University of Ibadan eventually, agreed with the proposal that we had presented to the management that we should have a department of bioethics and medical humanities. And that was approved, like I said, about 4 years ago. And right now, there's a department of bioethics and medical humanities at the University of Ibadan. And we believe that that platform, that department will serve as a platform that will help us spread the news about medical humanities, about literature, medicine, to other parts of the country, and then the other parts of the continent. I'm aware that about 1 or 2 universities in Nigeria have also introduced literature and medicine as a course in their own department. And I believe that we started, you have started, and it's now going to other places. And very soon, it will spread not only across Nigeria, but also to other parts of Africa. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Professor Omobowale, for your time. And now my colleague will do the recap to your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. I'm so sorry that we were unable to actually project the full slides of Prof because there's so much of content there. And what we're going to share it as some people have been requesting for the slides in the chat room. But to make a recap, starting from when my colleague was trying to introduce Prof, you can see the difficulties that that entails, because Prof is like a man in which there are 5 men inside, because what he has achieved is difficult to summarize it. And I know that, but we can send links. A lot of people have interviewed Profs, is on the newspaper. And but one thing that is fundamental, because Prof take an historical approach to this presentation, and is looking at the history of how medical humanities as interdisciplinary research and field was established in Nigeria. And he itemized collaboration apart from his own education, in which he was able to use a creative approach to merge boundaries and to bridge, to build, or bridge bridges, or to create something that is unique. But you know, medical humanities, as he explained, does not really exist alone in Nigeria or in Africa. It's a discipline that is established across in Europe and in America. But one of the fundamental points he itemized was collaboration. And he mentioned names of people. He mentioned how some of this interaction has generated results. And another part was also to talk about the productivity, or what we can say succession plans. And it's not just to, for those of us who are scholars in diaspora, either of African descent or those who are Africans who are in various parts of the world, in bringing new discipline, he tried to show that one has to think about succession plans. So he has supervised numerous people, and one of his PhD candidates is also presenting at this program. And he itemized other authorities in this research, because if we have 20 minutes for this presentation, we will not be able to explore all the scope. But he itemized authors that you can take a look at, you can build your own specialty. But there's something unique that he has introduced to scholarship, which I would like to itemize from his presentation. And that is the fact that he was able to take what used to be individual disciplines like ethics, bioethics, like literature, like medicine. He was able to introduce a new methodology in which, from thematic approach, as well themes that cross across them, and the context, the Nigerian context. And that is one of the major reasons why part of the literature that he focused on are literatures that are in Africa, and sorry to say, in Nigeria specifically. And we're going to get more understanding of this when Dr. Stephen, who is the next presenter, come on board, where he's going to make a further discussion on the practice of medical humanities in Nigeria as started and transpired by Professor Emmanuel Omobowale. So thank you very much before I make another speech.